Don't travel to Japan in 2026 without knowing these 10 things.
Samurai Junjiro Channel.
Hi, I'm Akanemaru, born and raised in Japan. Japan has changed, and traveling there in 2026 is not the same as before. If you travel to Japan in 2026 with outdated information, you may face unexpected problems or unnecessary costs. In this video, I will share the 10 most important things tourists need to know before traveling to Japan in 2026. Number 1. Welcome Suica Mobile and JR East reservation service have made travel in Japan easier for many visitors. For many international tourists, getting around Japan has long been a challenge. Many travelers have struggled with complex ticket systems, multiple IC cards, and situations where cash is still required. However, Japan's transportation environment has begun to change. One clear example is the integration between Welcome Suica Mobile and JR East official reservation service. Welcome Suica Mobile is a mobile IC service designed for international visitors to Japan. Using a smartphone, travelers can ride many trains and buses mainly within Suica-supported areas and also make payments at convenience stores and vending machines. It is designed specifically for short-term visitors. Welcome Suica Mobile is currently linked with JR East Train Reservation, the official online booking service operated by JR East. This system allows visitors to reserve seats in advance and travel more smoothly after arriving in Japan. JR East Train Reservation is JR East's official booking service for the Narita Express, certain limited express trains, and some Shinkansen services. It offers multilingual support and allows travelers to secure seats before arriving in Japan. What's important to understand is that this system does not mean everything is completed in a single app. Welcome Suica Mobile functions as an IC service, while seat reservations and purchases are handled through JR East Train Reservation. By linking these services, the process from booking to travel has become much clearer. This change is especially meaningful for travelers arriving at Narita Airport. Many international travelers use the Narita Express to reach Tokyo, and it is becoming common to reserve seats before arrival and continue traveling with Welcome Suica Mobile after landing. This reduces the need to search for ticket machines or prepare cash at the airport. Being able to move immediately after a long flight greatly improves the first impression of traveling in Japan. In addition, Welcome Suica Mobile works not only on JR lines in cities, but also on subways, private railways, and buses. In these countries, traveling and paying with smartphones and credit cards is common, and many people are not used to managing a separate transit card. At the same time, there are a few important things to keep in mind. This integration mainly covers JR East services and does not apply to all railway companies or all Shinkansen lines in Japan. Depending on the train type or route, usage methods may differ. It is not accurate to assume that everything will always be ticketless or fully automated. Checking the applicable routes and conditions in advance is important. Number 2. Rail operators in the Tokyo metropolitan area are considering making contactless card payments work across companies. For many years, IC cards have been widely used across Japan's railways. Using Suica or Pasmo, passengers can travel smoothly across multiple railway companies, which is a key feature of Japan's public transportation. Now, a new change is being considered for this system. It has been reported that multiple railway operators in the Tokyo metropolitan area are considering introducing contactless payments using credit and debit cards in a way that works across different companies. The operators reportedly include major railway companies in the Tokyo area, including Tokyo Metro, with around 11 companies said to be involved. These operators aim to make contactless card payments interoperable rather than standalone, with spring 2026 indicated as a target timeframe. If this system is realized, it would bring significant benefits for international tourists. For travelers from countries such as the United States and Australia, where credit card payments are commonly used, this could expand opportunities to ride trains without purchasing a Japan-specific IC card. Currently, mobile Suica compatibility can vary depending on the device and setup, which can be inconvenient in some cases. If contactless credit card payments become more widely available, this device or setup-related inconveniences are expected to be reduced. At the same time, there are more important points to keep in mind. Unlike prepaid IC cards such as Suica, contactless credit card payments are generally postpaid. The types of cards and brands are accepted, as well as support for overseas issued cards, may vary depending on the railway operator and payment provider. Therefore, rather than assuming credit cards can be used on all lines, it is important to check the planned routes and the latest information in advance. Number 3. In Kyoto, especially on city buses, large luggage may be refused at the discretion of staff. Kyoto is one of the most popular tourist destinations in Japan. At the same time, congestion caused by the rapid increase in tourists have become a serious issue, and the city of Kyoto is asking travelers to be mindful of how they use public transportation. Currently, on public transportations in Kyoto, especially city buses, passengers may be asked not to bring large or excessive luggage on board depending on on-site judgment. This does not mean that a new law or uniform penalty have been introduced. Rather, drivers or staff may prioritize safety and smooth operations during crowded periods. The city of Kyoto encourages tourists to practice hands-free travel. This approach encourages travelers to avoid bringing large suitcases onto city buses and instead use luggage delivery service to hotels, station lockers, or luggage storage services. Importantly, there are no nationwide clearly defined numerical standards for suitcase size or weight. While specific size or weight figures may appear online, Kyoto City has not officially set uniform limits, and final decisions are left to on-site staff. If you need to travel with large luggage, using taxis or trains instead of city buses may be a more practical option. However, taxis are more expensive than city buses, which may increase overall travel costs. For these reasons, travelers planning to stay in Kyoto should consider how to handle their luggage when planning transportation. Sending luggage directly to accommodations, using lockers near major stations, or using luggage storage services can make using public transportation much smoother. Number 4. Kyoto City's accommodation tax will be revised for stays on or after March 1, 2026, with a maximum of 10,000 yen per person per night. Kyoto City has decided to revise its accommodation tax system in response to the increasing number of tourists. This revision has been officially decided, and the new tax rates will apply to stays on or after March 1, 2026. Kyoto City's accommodation tax is structured so that the amount varies depending on the accommodation price. Under this revision, higher-priced accommodations will have a higher accommodation tax burden. In particular, a category will be introduced in which luxury hotels and high-end ryokan may be subject to accommodation tax of up to 10,000 yen per person per night. Importantly, this accommodation tax is calculated per person per night, not per room. For example, if 2 people stay together, the tax will be charged for both individuals. If travelers are unaware of this, the final amount paid may feel higher than expected. As of January 2026, this revision has not yet taken effect, but some accommodations have already begun providing information based on the revised system. Therefore, travelers planning to stay in Kyoto from March 2026 onward should be aware of this change in advance. However, not all accommodations will be subject to high tax amounts. For lower-priced hotels and simpler lodging facilities, the increase in accommodation tax will be relatively limited. As a result, choosing the accommodation area and type can help reduce the impact. If you plan to stay in Kyoto, it is important to check at the time of booking whether the accommodation tax is included or needs to be paid separately. This is especially important for multi-night stays or group travel, where the total cost can differ significantly. From 2026 onward, budgeting in Kyoto will increasingly require accounting for both accommodation costs and the accommodation tax. When planning a trip to Kyoto, setting a realistic budget that accounts for this accommodation tax revision will be key to enjoying your trip with peace of mind. Number 5. In Japan, an easier than usual influenza season was reported in 2025. In Japan, it was reported that influenza activity began earlier than usual from autumn to winter in 2025. In Japan, the influenza season is generally between December and April, and it often peaks from late January to early March. However, in 2025, reports indicated that Japan was considered to have entered a nationwide influenza outbreak as early October. Because of this, attention has been drawn to the possibility that influenza activity in Japan may begin earlier than in the past. Based on the situation seen in 2025, travelers planning to visit Japan from around November 2026 may feel more prepared by being mindful of infectious disease risks slightly earlier than usual. If influenza activity begins again from autumn to winter in 2026, places where people gather are especially important to be cautious about. Airports, long-distance trains, tourist sites, and busy shopping areas attract large crowds and can be environments where infections spread more easily. With these factors in mind, it is important to keep basic precautions in mind when visiting Japan from November 2026 onward. Wearing a mask in crowded places, washing or sanitizing hands frequently, and avoiding overly demanding schedules when feeling unwell can be helpful. In addition, as Japan becomes drier towards winter, people may be more likely to experience throat or nasal discomfort. Staying well hydrated and getting enough rest also help with managing health while traveling. Understanding influenza patterns can help ensure a safer and more comfortable trip to Japan. Number 6. Uber taxi became available across all 47 prefectures in Japan by mid-December 2025. Using Uber as a means of transportation in Japan is somewhat different from how it is used overseas. In countries such as the United States and Australia, Uber is commonly used as a ride-sharing service with private drivers, but the situation in Japan is different. In Japan, Uber is mainly provided as a taxi hailing service known as Uber Taxi. This system works by partnering with existing taxi companies and allowing users to request a taxi through the Uber app. This is different from overseas-style ride-sharing, where private individuals use their personal vehicles to transport passengers. Regarding Uber Taxi, Uber Japan has announced that it became available in all 47 prefectures in Japan by mid-December 2025. As a result, travelers can now use the Uber app to request taxis not only in major cities, but also in regional areas that previously had limited coverage. Taxis become an important means of transportation, especially in areas with limited public transit services or when traveling late at night or early in the morning. Now, depending on the area, the Uber app allows users to check availability and request a ride, making it easier to plan transportation. The Uber app also supports multiple languages, and destinations and payments can be handled within the app, which provides reassurance for international travelers. In many cases, users can specify their destination without having detailed conversations with the driver in Japanese. At the same time, there are some points to keep in mind. Uber in Japan is a taxi hailing service, and fares are based on local taxi pricing. Depending on the situation, additional fees such as pickup charges or tolls may apply. Travelers who expect the lower prices associated with ride-sharing overseas may notice a difference in cost. Even though the service is available in all 47 prefectures, it does not guarantee that a car will always be immediately available. In rural areas, during peak tourist seasons, or at certain times of day, it may take longer to get a ride, or a vehicle may not be available. For this reason, it is practical to use Uber in combination with public transportation, such as trains and buses when traveling in Japan. It is especially useful as a supplementary option when carrying a lot of luggage or traveling in areas where public transportation is inconvenient. Number 7. Dedicated pickup areas for app-based and pre-booked taxis have been introduced at Haneda Airport. At Japanese airports, transportation options after landing have been gradually changing as the number of international visitors increases. One particularly practical change is the introduction of dedicated pickup areas for app-based and pre-booked taxis. Currently, at Haneda Airport in Tokyo, dedicated pickup areas for app-based and pre-booked taxis are located on the second floor, departure level of Terminal 1 and Terminal 2. These areas are intended for passengers using ride-hailing apps such as Uber taxis or taxis that have been booked in advance. These dedicated pickup points are designed to reduce congestion inside the airport and making it easier for passengers to locate their taxis. In the past, many travelers were unsure where to meet their taxi or found it difficult to distinguish these services from regular taxi stands. Now, passengers using app-based or pre-booked taxis wait for their vehicles in designated pickup areas. This makes it easier for drivers and passengers to find each other, resulting in smoother transportation after arriving at the airport. At the same time, there are some points to keep in mind. These dedicated pickup areas do not apply to all taxis. If you want to use a regular taxi without an app or reservation, you need to use the standard taxi stand as before. Waiting times can occur, especially during peak international arrival periods or on days with bad weather. As of January 2026, these dedicated pickup areas are available at selected terminals at Haneda Airport. Since the same system has not been introduced at all airports in Japan, it is important to check in advance when using other airports. Number 8. A travel advisory issued by China in late 2025 may affect crowd levels and prices in Japan. In Japan, travel conditions can vary depending on the nationalities of inbound tourists. In the latter half of 2025, it was reported that the Chinese government issued an announcement advising caution for travel to Japan. China has been one of Japan's major inbound tourism markets, and in some months, visitors from China have accounted for a significant share of total arrivals. As a result, if travel demand from China temporarily declines, congestion in popular destinations such as Kyoto, Tokyo, and Osaka may ease. This effect may be more noticeable in areas that previously received many group tours or during peak travel seasons. Changes in demand can also affect prices. Because prices for hotels, flights, and tourism services are adjusted based on supply and demand, prices may stabilize or increase, may be limited in some cases. However, these are only possibilities, and it cannot be said with certainty that crowds will decrease or prices will fall. Tourism demand for Japan is influenced by multiple factors, including seasons, events, exchange rates, and economic conditions in each country. When planning a trip to Japan in 2026, it is generally fine to prepare as for a normal tourist trip while keeping an eye on the latest developments. Number 9. Japan is considering raising its departure tax to around 3,000 yen. Japan currently has a departure tax known as the International Tourist Tax. This tax applies to everyone departing Japan and is charged at 1,000 yen per person per trip. It applies not only to foreign visitors but also to Japanese citizens traveling overseas. It has been reported that the government is considering raising this tax and discussing it as part of broader tax policy reforms. Specifically, an increase from the current 1,000 yen to around 3,000 yen has been discussed. Importantly, as of January 2026, this increase has not yet been enacted into law. So why is such an increase being considered? The reasons cited include securing funding for infrastructure improvements, crowd management at tourist destinations, and environmental measures as visitor numbers increase. Japan continues to see growth in inbound tourism, creating a need for additional funding to support related services. Looking overseas, many countries impose departure taxes that are higher than Japan's. For this reason, Japan's departure tax is sometimes viewed as relatively low by international standards. These factors are also cited as reasons behind the consideration of a tax increase. For travelers visiting Japan from countries such as the United States or Australia, this is a tax they often do not feel they pay directly. In most cases, it is included in the airline ticket price and does not need to be paid separately at the airport. As a result, many travelers pay it without noticing even if the amount changes. However, if the departure tax is raised in the future, the increase may be reflected in the total cost of airline tickets. Even a difference of a few thousand yen per person can affect the total cost of family trips or long-haul flights. For those planning a trip to Japan from 2026 onward, this discussion is not something that will have an immediate impact. But it is worth being aware of as one factor that could gradually increase the cost of traveling to Japan in the future. At present, travelers do not need to take any special action. What matters most is checking the latest information if an official announcement is made and calmly understand any changes in airfare pricing. Number 10. Bear sighting increased significantly in 2025, and extra caution may still be needed for rural travels in 2026. In Japan, it was reported that bear sightings increased sharply in 2025 compared with an average year. From spring through autumn, sightings and injuries were reported not only in mountainous areas but also in locations close to residential areas. According to media reports and local government announcements, some areas saw bear-related injuries reach record high levels in 2025, including serious cases involving fatalities. One notable change in 2025 was that bear sightings, once considered a problem limited to remote mountains, were also reported near residential areas, around schools, and close to urban zones. Regions with relatively frequent sighting included parts of Tohoku, Hokuriku, Koshinetsu, Northern Kanto, and Hokkaido. In these areas, rich natural environments often coexist with tourist sites, hot spring resorts, and hiking trails located close to populated areas. Experts and local authorities have pointed to multiple factors behind the increase in bear sightings in 2025. These include shortages of natural food sources, such as acorns, changes in forest environments, closer proximity between human settlements and wildlife, and challenges in wildlife management, such as a shortage of trained hunters. However, no single factor has been identified as the sole cause. Based on these circumstances, caution regarding bears may still be necessary in the same regions and seasons in 2026. Because bear habitats and behavior patterns are unlikely to change dramatically in a short period, understanding the trends between 2025 can be useful when planning trips in 2026. An important point for international visitors is that this issue does not apply equally across all of Japan. In urban-focused travel to cities such as Tokyo or Osaka, the likelihood of encountering a bear is considered low. On the other hand, extra caution is advisable when visiting rural areas, engaging in nature activities, hiking, or traveling to hot spring resorts in mountainous regions. In many regions, official information and alerts about bear sighting are regularly published. The key is not to be overly fearful, but to act with awareness of the fact that sightings were more frequent in 2025. Rural tourism in Japan offers many attractive destinations, and with accurate information, it can be enjoyed safely. If you know these 10 things, your trip to Japan in 2026 will be safer and much smoother. Use the latest information and enjoy your trip to Japan.
Well, that's all for today. See you in the next video. Bye bye!